Your reality is not shaped by effort or struggle, but by your ability to believe in the unseen. You are not a victim of fate. You are its master. The world you experience is nothing but a reflection of your inner conversations, your deeply held beliefs. The moment you accept this, you step into your power as the operant force in your life. Do not wait for circumstances to change before you believe. That is the great mistake of man. You must assume that what you seek is already yours. If you desire wealth, feel the security and joy of already being wealthy. If you long for love, feel the warmth of already being cherished. Do not wish, assume, do not hope, no. The only reason desires go unfulfilled is doubt. You waver between belief and disbelief, allowing the evidence of the senses to dictate your faith. But the senses only reflect what you have previously believed. If you persist in your assumption, even when the world shows you the opposite, the world must conform. It has no choice. This is law. Your imagination creates reality. If you will but live each day in the state of the answered prayer, your life will unfold in miraculous ways. Dare to claim what is already yours. Rest in the knowing that it is done. So I leave you with this. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Dwell in it, persist in it, and watch as the world bows to your command. The greatest secret of life is that imagination is the only reality. Everything you experience in the external world is simply a reflection of what you have imagined within. You are not at the mercy of circumstances, nor are you a victim of fate. Instead, you are the creator, shaping your reality through the power of your assumptions, beliefs, and inner vision. The world you see with your physical eyes is nothing more than a shadow cast by your internal state of consciousness. Change that state and the world must follow. Most people live under the false assumption that life happens to them. They believe that external forces, luck, chance, or the will of others determine their experiences. But I tell you, this is not so. Your life is not dictated by forces outside of you, but by the thoughts, images, and feelings you habitually entertain. What you accept as true within your imagination will eventually solidify into your lived experience. This is the great mystery that few understand. Yet, it is the key to all success, happiness, and fulfillment. To master this truth, you must learn to live from the end. This means that you must assume in your imagination that you are already the person you wish to be. If you desire wealth, you must feel yourself to be wealthy now. If you seek love, you must dwell in the state of already being loved and cherished. You do not beg, plead, or chase after what you desire. You assume it is already yours. The world does not respond to desperate effort, but to the quiet certainty of inner conviction. Every invention, work of art, or great achievement began as an idea within someone's mind. The telephone, the airplane, the great cathedrals of the world, all were once invisible thoughts before they became physical reality. Those who created them did not dwell on their current limitations. They saw beyond what was and lived in the reality of what could be. The same principle applies to your life. If you wish to change your circumstances, you must first change the way you see yourself in imagination. Many will say, "But I cannot imagine something that is not yet real." To this I say, everything you now experience was once not real in your external world, yet it exists because you accepted it as possible. Your present conditions are merely the outpicturing of your past beliefs. If you can accept this, you will understand that the only way to change your future is to change what you accept as true in the present moment. Doubt is the only barrier to manifestation. If you waver in your assumption, constantly looking for evidence in the outer world before you believe, you will delay or even prevent your desire from materializing. The world is a mirror. It can only reflect what you hold within. Do not wait for proof. Live as though it is already done. Feel the joy, the relief, the excitement of having what you seek, and let that feeling saturate your being. This is not wishful thinking. It is the law of consciousness. What you persistently feel and assume to be true will inevitably become your reality. The only requirement is faith, the willingness to trust in the unseen, knowing that it must become seen. When you fully accept that imagination is the only reality, you free yourself from the illusion of limitation. You no longer react to the world you created. You step into your power as the divine being that you are. So I urge you, do not let the world tell you who you are. Do not be swayed by appearances. Instead, create from within. Imagine boldly, assume confidently, and persist unwaveringly, and lie from the end, and watch as the world bends to reflect your highest vision. Thinking alone is not enough. It is not enough to merely wish, to hope, or to visualize passively. The great secret of manifestation lies in feeling, for feeling is the language of creation. What you feel deeply and consistently is what you impress upon your subconscious mind, and once impressed, it must externalize itself as your reality. This is the law. Many people mistakenly believe that they must force change through sheer effort, through constant action in the outer world. But true transformation begins within. The subconscious mind does not respond to empty words or fleeting thoughts. It responds to emotion. It is only when you feel yourself to be already in possession of what you seek that your reality begins to shift. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the bridge between imagination and manifestation. Consider for a moment how natural this process truly is. Have you ever had a dream so vivid, so emotionally charged, that it felt entirely real? In that moment while dreaming, you accepted it as true. Your heart raced, your body reacted, and your mind was fully immersed in the experience. It did not matter that you were lying in bed. Your emotions made it real to you. In the same way, if you can lose yourself in the assumption that your desire is already yours, if you can feel the reality of it now, the subconscious mind will accept it as fact. Your subconscious is impersonal. It does not judge whether something is good or bad, wanted or unwanted. It simply takes whatever feeling you consistently entertain and projects it outward as experience. This is why people who dwell in fear, worry, and lack continue to attract more of the same. They may desperately wish for abundance, for love, for success. But deep down, they feel the absence of these things. And because they feel lack more strongly than fulfillment, lack persists. To manifest what you desire, you must reverse this process. Instead of dwelling in the emotions of what you don't have, you must cultivate the feeling of already having it. Ask yourself, how would I feel if my desire were fulfilled right now? Not tomorrow, not someday, but in this very moment. Would you feel relief, gratitude, joy, peace? Find that feeling within yourself and hold on to it. Let it consume you until it becomes your dominant state. This is not a technique of force, but of surrender. You are not trying to convince yourself or struggle to believe. You are simply allowing yourself to experience in imagination the emotional reality of your fulfilled desire. The more real it feels, the faster it manifests. There is no need to worry about how it will come to pass. Your only job is to feel it as real, to impress it upon your subconscious, and to trust the unseen forces that bring it into being. Some may say, but how can I feel something that is not yet real? To them I say, every feeling is real the moment you feel it. You do not need external proof to justify an emotion. You can feel love without a person standing in front of you. You can feel wealth without money in your hands. You can feel success before the world recognizes it. The moment you allow yourself to dwell in that state, your outer world will begin to shift to match it. This is why faith is essential. You must persist in the feeling of your wish fulfilled, even when outer circumstances seem unchanged. The world is simply a reflection of your past assumptions, and change takes time to crystallize. But if you remain steadfast in your feeling, never doubting, never looking for evidence, then your desire must come to pass. It is law. So do not merely think about what you want. Feel it. Become it in imagination. Let the joy, the peace, and the certainty of your fulfilled desire fill your entire being, and in time you will see that what you once felt in imagination has become the undeniable reality of your life. Do not wait for the world to show you proof before you believe. If you do, you will remain trapped in a cycle of reacting to circumstances rather than creating them. The great secret to manifesting is to assume the wish fulfilled, to live in the feeling that your desire is already yours, even before the physical evidence appears. This is not a passive daydream, but a deliberate shift in consciousness, a way of being that transforms your world from within. Everything in your life right now is a reflection of your past assumption. The conditions you see before you, the relationships, the finances, the health, the successes or struggles, are simply the outpicturing of what you have previously assumed to be true. If you wish to change any aspect of your life, you must first change the assumptions that created it. The world does not shape your beliefs shape the world. Most people believe the opposite. They say, "I will believe it when I see it," but this is the great illusion. You do not see first and then believe. You believe first and then you see. The unseen must be accepted as real before it can become visible. Every great achievement, every innovation, every transformation has come from someone who dared to assume it was possible before there was any proof. Assuming the wish fulfilled means walking through life as if your desire is already a fact. It means carrying yourself with the confidence, the peace, the joy of someone who already has what they want. If you desire wealth, do not dwell in thoughts of lack. Feel the security and ease of already being abundant. If you seek love, do not focus on loneliness. Feel the warmth and companionship of already being cherished. It is not about fooling yourself. It is about aligning with the reality you wish to experience. Your subconscious mind does not differentiate between what is real and what is imagined. It simply accepts whatever feeling you impress upon it as truth. If you consistently assume yourself to be healthy, successful, loved, and abundant, your subconscious will accept these assumptions and bring them forth into your reality. The world will bend to match your inner state, for it has no choice but to do so. Doubt is the only thing that can delay your manifestation. If you assume your wish fulfilled one moment, then question it the next. You are like a gardener who plants a seed, but keeps digging it up to see if it is growing. The seed needs time to take root. Likewise, your assumption needs time to solidify into form. Persist in the feeling of already having your desire, and the world will reshape itself accordingly. This is not a process of forcing or struggling. You do not need to chase after results or manipulate external circumstances. Your only task is to maintain the inner conviction that what you desire is already yours. The outer world is simply a mirror. It can only reflect back what you hold within. Change the inner and the outer must follow. Many will ask, but what if my current reality contradicts my assumption? Ignore it. Do not let appearances dictate your beliefs. The present moment is merely the result of past assumptions, and it has no power over what you are now creating. If you persist in the assumption of your wish fulfilled, the current reality must fade away to make room for the new. Assume boldly to walk in the knowing that what you desire is already a fact, and let the world prove you right, for it must. It is law. When you pray, Do not pray as one who is begging, hoping, or wishing. Instead, pray as one who knows, one who understands that the prayer is already answered. The secret to manifestation is to live in the state of the answered prayer, to assume the feeling of already having that which you seek, and to let reality shape itself accordingly. Most people approach prayer as though they are separate from the very thing they desire. They ask and then wait, hoping that something or someone outside of them will grant their request. But true prayer is not about asking. It is about receiving. It is about assuming that what you seek is already yours and dwelling in that certainty. The mind often wants to concern itself with how things will unfold. It asks, where will the money come from? How will I meet the right person? When will my circumstances change? But the how is never your concern. The greater intelligence of life, the unseen power that governs all things, will orchestrate the means. Your only task is to remain steadfast in the state of fulfillment, to persist in the assumption that it is done. Consider a farmer who plants a seed. He does not dig it up every day to see if it is growing. He does not question whether the soil knows how to turn the seed into a tree. He trusts the process, knowing that nature will take care of the rest. In the same way, when you assume your wish fulfilled, you must trust that unseen forces are working on your behalf. The conditions, the people, the opportunities, everything required for the fulfillment of your desire will arrange itself in perfect order. You must dwell in the certainty that it already is. If you had already received your desire, how would you feel? How would you think? How would you act? Would you still worry? Would you still doubt? No. You would move through life with confidence, peace, and gratitude. This is the state you must embody now before the evidence appears. When you live in the state of the answered prayer, you become the thing you seek. You are no longer someone waiting for a change. You are the change. Your energy shifts, your actions align, and the world around you begins to mirror your new inner state. People are drawn to you, opportunities arise, and circumstances transform in ways you could never have predicted. But this requires faith, not faith in something outside of you, but faith in the power within you. The moment you surrender the need to control the process and instead rest in the knowing that your desire is already fulfilled, you free yourself from struggle. You move beyond doubt, beyond fear, beyond limitation. You step into the flow of life, allowing it to unfold effortlessly. This is why Scripture says, when you pray, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. It does not say to hope for it. It does not say to wait for it. It says to believe you have received it right now in this moment. This is the key. So let go of the need to figure it all out. Stop questioning, stop doubting, stop looking for signs. Simply be the person who already has what they desire. Feel the joy, the relief, the gratitude of the wish fulfilled. Make this your dwelling place, your natural state of being. And as surely as the sun rises, your world will shift to reflect your assumption. The world you see before you is nothing more than a reflection of your past assumptions, your past beliefs, and your past states of being. It is not permanent, nor is it a true representation of what is possible. The great mistake is to believe that what you currently experience in the 3D world is all that is real. To manifest your desires, you must persist in your assumption regardless of what your senses tell you. Most people are slaves to their circumstances. They look at what is in front of them and accept it as truth. If they see lack, they assume lack is all there is. If they see failure, they believe they are destined to fail. But this is not how creation works. The outer world is simply a delayed reflection of the inner world. To change the outer, you must first change the inner, and persist in that new assumption even when the 3D world seems unchanged. Faith is the ability to believe in what is unseen. It is the certainty that what you have assumed must come to pass. Yet faith is tested in moments when the physical world contradicts your inner vision. These moments are where most people give up. They say, nothing is changing. I don't see any results. Maybe this isn't working. And with that, they abandon the very state that would have brought their desire into form. You must refuse to let your senses dictate your beliefs. If you assume yourself to be wealthy, but your bank account shows a low balance, do not waver. If you assume yourself to be loved, but you are still single, do not despair. The 3D world is simply the result of past assumptions, and it takes time for the new state to materialize, but it must materialize if you persist. Think of a seed planted in the ground. If you were to dig it up every day to check if it was growing, you would disrupt the process and kill its potential. The same is true for your assumptions. You must assume your desire is real, and then allow it time to take root. The more you persist, the stronger that assumption becomes, until eventually it hardens into fact. It is easy to believe when things are going well, but the true test of faith is to remain steadfast even when the 3D world presents the opposite. Do not let fear, doubt, or external circumstances shake your belief. Your only job is to remain faithful to the unseen reality. Keep your mind fixed on the end result, and do not concern yourself with the how or when. Many great figures throughout history understood this principle. They were met with obstacles, ridicule, and apparent failure. Yet they persisted in their inner conviction. They did not allow the world to dictate what they believed to be possible, and because they held firm, the world eventually bent to match their vision. You too must have this kind of persistence. Walk through life with the certainty that your assumption is already fact, even when the outer world suggests otherwise. Speak, think, and act as though you already have what you desire. Do not let appearances fool you. The 3D world must change, but only if you do not give in to doubt. Most people delay their manifestations because they constantly react to their external circumstances. They check for evidence, then feel discouraged when they see none. But this very doubt reinforces the old state, keeping them trapped. Instead, persist in your assumption no matter what. Live in the end result and refuse to accept anything less as truth. Your faith must be greater than your senses. Your assumption must be stronger than the world's illusion. And when you master this, nothing will be impossible for you. The 3D world has no choice but to yield, for it is only a reflection of what you have persistently imagined. You are not separate from the divine. You are not a mere observer of life, subject to random circumstances and forces beyond your control. You are God's power in action, the creative force shaping your reality moment by moment. The greatest truth you can ever come to understand is that your awareness is the creator of your world. When you fully recognize this, nothing will be impossible for you. Most people go through life unaware of their own power. They believe themselves to be at the mercy of luck, fate, or the will of others. They see themselves as victims of circumstance rather than the architects of their reality. But this is a misunderstanding of the nature of creation. The external world does not create your experiences. Your consciousness does. What you assume, what you believe, what you persistently hold in your awareness is what becomes your life. This truth has been revealed throughout history, though few have grasped its full significance. When Scripture says, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he," it is not merely a poetic phrase. It is a law. Whatever you accept as true within yourself must manifest outwardly. Your awareness is the seed and the world is the harvest. If you believe in limitation, you will see limitation everywhere. If you believe in abundance, abundance will appear in ways you could never have imagined. There is no power outside of you that determines your fate. You are the power. You do not need permission to create the life you desire. You do not need to struggle or beg for change. You simply need to recognize the truth of your own being. This is the name of God, and it is your own divine identity. When you declare I am healthy, you set the creative power into motion. When you affirm I am wealthy, the forces of the universe begin to align. But if you say I am struggling, I am unworthy, I am failing, that too will be your experience. For the universe does not judge. It simply reflects back to you whatever you accept as real. You must take control of your inner world. Guard your thoughts, for they are the blueprint of your life. If you wish to see a new reality, you must first embody it in your mind. Feel yourself already in possession of what you desire. Walk through life with the certainty that it is already done. This is the great secret that those who awaken to their power come to understand. You do not become something you already are it. You simply awaken to the truth of your being. Many people doubt their power because they have spent years believing. Otherwise, they have been conditioned to think small, to accept struggle, to believe in lack. But no conditioning is greater than the truth of who you are. The moment you decide to step into your divine power, the old self begins to fade. Your reality will shift as your awareness shifts. Do not be deceived by appearances. The 3D world may tell you that things are difficult, that success is out of reach, that change is slow. But the 3D world is only a reflection of past assumptions. The moment you shift your awareness, a new reality is set in motion. Persist in that new state, and the world will conform. You are the power. You are the creator. There is nothing outside of you greater than the awareness within you. Live from this truth, and no dream will be beyond your reach. Whatever you desire, whatever you long for, it is already yours the moment. You claim it as so, for you are God's power in action, shaping reality with every thought, every feeling, every assumption. Recognize this, and nothing will be impossible for you. Everything you seek, everything you long for, already exists within you. The world is not happening to you, it is happening through you. Your awareness is the creative force shaping your reality, and once you fully accept this truth, you will no longer live as a victim of circumstances. You will step into your divine power, knowing that what you assume, feel, and persist in must become your experience. There is no need to struggle, chase, or beg. Simply assume the wish fulfilled. Feel its reality now. Live in the state of the answered prayer. Ignore the 3D world when it contradicts your desire, and persist in your assumption until it hardens into. In fact, you are not separate from the divine. You are the divine in action. Your only task is to recognize this truth and live by it. Walk forward with unwavering faith, knowing that the world will rearrange itself to reflect your inner conviction. There is nothing outside of you that holds power over your destiny. You are the power, and when you fully embrace this, nothing will be impossible for you. Thank you for listening, and may you step boldly into the life that is already yours.
My dear friends, I want to begin tonight with a question that will determine the entire trajectory of your life. Who do you assume yourself to be? Not who you hope to become, not who you're working toward being. But who, in the depths of your consciousness, do you assume yourself to be right now, in this very moment? You see, most people believe they are victims of circumstance, prisoners of their past, or slaves to their conditions. But I tell you tonight with absolute certainty, you are none of these things. You are the operant power of your world, the author of your experience, the God of your reality. The principle I'm about to share with you is so simple that the intellectual mind often dismisses it, yet so profound that when properly understood and applied, it can transform your entire existence in ways that will seem miraculous to those who don't understand the law. Let me share with you a story that illustrates this principle perfectly. A young man once approached me, desperate and defeated. He had lost his job, his girlfriend had left him, and he was facing eviction from his apartment. He looked at me with tears in his eyes and said, Neville, I'm cursed. Nothing ever works out for me. I'm just unlucky. I stopped him right there. My friend, I said, you have just revealed to me the source of all your troubles. It's not that you're unlucky, it's that you assume you're unlucky. And assumption, my dear friend, is the foundation of all creation. You see, assumption is not mere wishful thinking or positive affirmation. Assumption is the acceptance of something as true, regardless of evidence to the contrary. It is the feeling of certainty that what you desire already exists in the invisible realm of consciousness, waiting to be made manifest in your physical world. Every state of consciousness has its own unique feeling tone, its own vibrational signature. When you assume the state of being wealthy, you naturally feel abundant, secure, and generous. When you assume the state of being loved, you feel cherished, appreciated, and valued. When you assume the state of being healthy, you feel vital, energetic, and whole. The secret, and this is crucial, is that you must feel the reality of your assumption before you see the evidence of it. Now let me tell you about that young man I mentioned. Instead of focusing on his problems, I taught him to focus on his assumption. I asked him, what kind of person do you want to be? I want to be successful, confident, and prosperous, he replied. Then that is what you must assume yourself to be right now, regardless of your current circumstances. For the next week, every morning upon waking, and every evening before sleep, he would close his eyes and feel himself to be the successful, confident, prosperous man he desired to be. He would imagine walking into his own office, signing important contracts, depositing large checks at the bank. But most importantly, he would feel the naturalness of being that person. And here's what happened. Within 10 days, a former colleague contacted him about a business opportunity. Within 3 weeks, he had his first client. Within 2 months, he had moved into a beautiful new apartment. Within 4 months, he was running his own consultancy and earning more money than he had ever made in his life. Was this luck? Was this coincidence? Absolutely not. This was the law of assumption in perfect operation. But let me be very clear about something that trips up many people. When I speak of feeling, I'm not talking about emotion or excitement. I'm talking about the deep inner conviction, the sense of naturalness that comes from truly accepting something as already accomplished. Think of it this way. How do you feel about your own name? You don't get excited about it. You don't hope it's really yours. You don't work to make it yours. You simply, naturally assume it to be yours. This is the kind of feeling you must have about your desired state. Here's another story that will demonstrate this perfectly. A woman came to me once, desperate to heal her relationship with her estranged son. They hadn't spoken in 5 years after a bitter argument. She had tried everything: letters, phone calls, reaching out through other family members. Nothing worked. I told her to stop trying to make it happen, and instead to assume it had already happened. Every night, she would imagine receiving a loving phone call from her son. She would hear his voice, full of warmth and affection. She would feel the joy of their reconciliation. She would assume the feeling of being a mother whose son adored her. She persisted in this assumption for 3 weeks. Then, on a Tuesday morning, her phone rang. It was her son calling to say he'd been thinking about her and wanted to rebuild their relationship. And here's the part that will really grab your attention. He told her he had been having dreams about her for weeks. Dreams where they were happy together, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he needed to call her. You see, when you change your assumption about yourself, you change your entire world. Everyone and everything in your world must rearrange itself to conform to your new assumption. Now I know some of you are thinking, but Neville, how is this possible? How can my assumptions affect other people? Let me explain something that will revolutionize your understanding of reality. There is only one consciousness, and you are it. What you call other people are simply different aspects of your own consciousness being reflected back to you. When you assume that people love and respect you, you will find that people begin treating you with love and respect. When you assume that opportunities are always opening for you, you will find opportunities appearing everywhere. When you assume that you are healthy and vital, your body will begin to reflect that assumption. This is not theory. This is law. It operates with the same precision as the law of gravity. Assume something persistently, and it must manifest in your world. Let me share another fascinating example. A businessman once told me he wanted to double his income. I asked him, "What would you do if your income were already doubled?" He thought for a moment and said, "I would buy a new car, move to a better neighborhood, and take my family on a luxury vacation." "Then assume you've already done these things," I told him. "Feel yourself driving that new car. Feel yourself living in that better neighborhood. Feel yourself enjoying that luxury vacation with your family." He began to assume the feeling of having double his income. He would visualize making larger deposits at the bank, signing bigger contracts, living the lifestyle that such income would provide. But most importantly, he maintained the feeling of being a man who naturally earned that much money. And here's the remarkable part. Within 6 months, not only had his income doubled, but it had tripled. New clients seemed to appear out of nowhere. Investment opportunities presented themselves. Even unexpected windfalls came his way. But let me warn you about something that destroys the power of assumption for most people. It's inconsistency. You cannot assume wealth on Monday and poverty on Tuesday. You cannot assume health in the morning and illness in the evening. You cannot assume love when you feel good and rejection when you feel bad. Your assumption must be constant and unwavering. I once knew a woman who wanted to attract her ideal romantic partner. She would spend her mornings imagining herself in a beautiful, loving relationship. She would feel cherished, adored, and completely fulfilled. But then, during the day, whenever she saw happy couples, she would think, "That will never happen to me. I'm not attractive enough. All the good men are taken." Do you see what she was doing? She was giving with one hand and taking away with the other. She was assuming love in the morning and loneliness during the day. The result? Nothing changed in her life, because her assumptions were canceling each other out. But here's how she turned it around. And this technique will work for you too. I taught her the art of living from the end. Instead of thinking about her desire, she learned to think from her desire. Instead of hoping for love, she assumed she was already loved. Whenever she caught herself thinking thoughts of lack or loneliness, she would immediately redirect her attention to the feeling of being in her ideal relationship. She would ask herself, "How would I think if I were already loved? How would I behave if I were already in my perfect relationship?" Within 2 months, she met a man who embodied every quality she had been imagining. They're now happily married. Now, let me share with you the most revolutionary truth you'll ever hear. You are already the person you want to be. In the infinite realm of consciousness, every possible version of yourself already exists. There is a version of you that is wealthy, a version that is healthy, a version that is loved, a version that is successful. Your job is not to create these versions. They already exist. Your job is to assume the feeling of being them. Think of it like this. Imagine consciousness as a vast wardrobe filled with an infinite number of garments. Each garment represents a different state of being. Right now, you're wearing the garment of your current state. If you want to experience a different state, you simply need to change your garment. Change your assumption. The wealthy version of you isn't something you need to become in the future. It exists right now, in this moment, in the realm of pure possibility. When you assume the feeling of being that wealthy person, you literally step into that version of yourself. Let me give you a powerful technique to do this. Close your eyes right now and imagine that you are already everything you want to be. Don't think about how you'll get there or when it will happen. Simply assume that you are already there. Feel the satisfaction of having achieved your goals. Feel the joy of being the person you've always wanted to be. Feel the peace that comes from knowing that all your desires are already fulfilled. This feeling, this is your prayer. This is your creative power. This is how you change your world. Now I know some of you are thinking, this sounds wonderful, Neville, but how do I apply this practically? How do I maintain this assumption when my circumstances seem to contradict it? Here's the secret. You must be willing to live by an inner conviction rather than by outer appearances. Your senses will tell you that nothing has changed. Your bank account will show the same numbers. Your mirror will reflect the same appearance. Your relationships will seem the same, but you must persist in your assumption, despite the evidence of your senses. Remember, your senses only show you the past, the results of your former assumptions. They cannot show you the future, the results of your new assumption. That's why it takes faith to live by assumption, rather than by sight. Let me share a technique that will help you maintain your assumption. Every time you encounter evidence that contradicts your desired state, instead of reacting to it, revise it. If you want to be wealthy but receive a bill you can't pay, don't accept that experience. In your imagination, revise the scene. See yourself easily paying the bill, even having money left over. Feel the satisfaction of financial abundance. If you want to be healthy but feel symptoms of illness, don't accept that experience. In your imagination, revise the scene. See yourself feeling vibrant and energetic. Feel the joy of perfect health. This isn't denial, this is revision. You're not pretending that unwanted circumstances don't exist. You're rewriting them in consciousness, which is the only place where change can originate. And now let me share with you the ultimate secret. The one that very few people understand. The person you assume yourself to be is not just who you become. It's who you've always been. Your true self is not limited by your past, your circumstances, or your conditions. Your true self is the unlimited, infinite consciousness that can assume any state, experience any reality, become any person. When you assume a new state, you're not becoming someone different. You're revealing who you truly are beneath all the false assumptions you've accepted about yourself. The person you want to be is not a stranger. It's your true self, that confident, successful, loved, healthy, prosperous person you dream of being. That's not someone you need to become. That's who you really are, underneath all the limiting beliefs and false assumptions. Now, let me walk you through the exact process of transformation. Step 1. Know what you want. Be specific. Don't say, I want to be successful. Say, I want to be a best-selling author, or I want to own a thriving business, or I want to be in perfect health. Step 2. Construct a scene that implies your desire is fulfilled. This should be a simple, natural scene that would happen if your desire were already a reality. Perhaps it's a friend congratulating you on your success, or you looking at your bank statement with satisfaction, or feeling the energy of perfect health. Step 3. Enter the scene in imagination. See it clearly, hear the sounds, feel the emotions, make it as vivid and real as possible. Step 4. Capture the feeling. This is the most important part. How would you feel if this scene were really happening right now? Capture that feeling of satisfaction, joy, relief, or gratitude. Step 5. Assume that feeling throughout your day. Whenever you think about your desire, return to that feeling. Live from the assumption that it has already happened. Step 6. Persist until it feels natural. Keep assuming this new state until it becomes your dominant assumption about yourself. Let me share a personal example. Years ago, I wanted to speak to larger audiences about these principles. At the time, I was speaking to small groups of perhaps 20 or 30 people, but I assumed the feeling of addressing thousands. I would imagine standing before a vast audience, feeling the energy of hundreds of people hanging on every word. I would hear the applause, feel the satisfaction of sharing these truths with so many people. Most importantly, I would assume the feeling of being someone who naturally spoke to large audiences. I persisted in this assumption for months. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, invitations began arriving. Radio stations wanted interviews. Larger venues offered speaking opportunities. Publishers became interested in my work. The result, I began speaking to audiences of hundreds, then thousands. But here's the key. It didn't feel like a miracle or a stroke of luck. It felt natural, because I had already been assuming it to be true. But what about doubt? What do you do when doubt creeps in? When your mind tells you this is impossible? When logic says your assumptions are just fantasies? Here's what you do. You remember that doubt is just another assumption. If you can assume limitation, you can assume possibility. If you can assume failure, you can assume success. If you can assume sickness, you can assume health. Doubt has no more power than belief. They're both just assumptions. The question is, which assumption serves you better? I once had a student who wanted to heal from a serious illness. The doctors had given him a poor prognosis, and everyone around him was preparing for the worst. But he chose to assume perfect health. Every time doubt arose, he would say to himself, I can assume sickness, or I can assume health. I choose health. He would return to the feeling of being completely well, vital, and energetic. His doctors called his recovery a miracle. But it wasn't a miracle, it was assumption. Here's something that will fascinate you. When you change your assumption about yourself, everything and everyone in your world changes to match that new assumption. It's like dropping a stone into a still pond. The ripples spread outward, affecting everything in their path. Your new assumption creates ripples that transform your entire reality. People will treat you differently without knowing why. Opportunities will appear that seemed impossible before. Circumstances will rearrange themselves to support your new assumption. This isn't manipulation, it's law. When you change your inner world, your outer world must change to match it. But how long does it take? This is the question everyone asks. The answer is, it takes as long as it takes for your assumption to feel natural to you. Some assumptions feel natural immediately. Others take time to fully accept. The key is persistence. Keep assuming your desired state until it becomes your dominant assumption about yourself. Don't set deadlines. Don't demand that your assumption manifest by a certain date. Simply persist in the feeling of already being what you want to be, and let the law work in its own perfect timing. The secret to successful assumption is learning to live from the end. Instead of living from your current circumstances and hoping to reach your goal, live from your goal and let your circumstances adjust to meet you there. If you want to be wealthy, think like a wealthy person thinks. Feel what a wealthy person feels. Act as a wealthy person would act, within reason and without going into debt. If you want to be loved, feel loved right now. Think like someone who is cherished thinks. Behave like someone who knows they are worthy of love. If you want to be successful, assume the feeling of success. Think like a successful person thinks. Feel what success feels like in your body. This isn't pretending. This is assuming. This is recognizing that the person you want to be already exists within you, waiting to be assumed. Pay attention to your inner conversation, the constant stream of thoughts running through your mind. What are you assuming about yourself in your thoughts? What story are you telling yourself about who you are and what's possible for you? Your inner conversation is creating your outer experience. If your inner conversation is full of lack, limitation, and impossibility, that's what you'll experience. If your inner conversation assumes abundance, possibility, and success, that's what you'll manifest. Change your inner conversation, and you change your life. Instead of thinking, I hope this works, think, I know this is already done. Instead of thinking, maybe I can be successful, think, I am successful. Instead of thinking, I wish I could be healthy, think, I am perfectly healthy. There's another crucial element that will accelerate your transformation: gratitude. But I'm not talking about being grateful for what you hope to receive. I'm talking about being grateful for what you assume you already have. When you assume your desire is already fulfilled, gratitude becomes a natural response. How do you feel when someone gives you exactly what you want? You feel grateful. This is the gratitude you should feel for your assumption. Every night before sleep, feel grateful for the fulfillment of your desires. Thank the universe, thank God, thank life itself for already giving you everything you've assumed to be yours. This gratitude is not a technique. It's a natural response to the recognition that your desires are already fulfilled in consciousness. And now let me share the final secret, the one that will set you free forever. You are not trying to get anything. You are not trying to become anyone. You are simply recognizing what is already true in the infinite realm of consciousness. Every desire you have is already fulfilled somewhere in consciousness. Every person you want to be already exists. Every experience you want to have is already available. Your only job is to assume the state of consciousness where these things are already true. This is not work. This is recognition. This is not effort. This is acceptance. This is not becoming. This is being. So here is my challenge to you. Choose one desire, one goal, one aspect of yourself you want to transform. Tonight, before you sleep, assume the feeling of already being that person. Don't hope for it. Don't work for it. Don't pray for it. Assume it. Feel the naturalness of being that person. Feel the satisfaction of having that experience. Feel the joy of living that reality. And then tomorrow, live from that assumption. Think like that person thinks. Feel like that person feels. Act like that person acts. Persist in this assumption, no matter what your senses tell you. Your transformation is not a future event. It's a present reality waiting to be assumed. Remember, you are not limited by your past, your circumstances, or your conditions. You are not a victim of anything or anyone. You are the operant power of your world, the author of your experience, the creator of your reality. The person you want to be is not someone you will become. It's who you already are. Assume it, feel it, live it, be it, and watch as your entire world transforms to reflect this new assumption. The power is within you. The time is now. Your new life is waiting for you to assume it. Now go forth and create the life you were born to live. Remember, assumption is the foundation of all manifestation. What you assume to be true about yourself and your world becomes your reality. Choose your assumptions wisely, for they are the building blocks of your destiny. Tonight, I want to share with you something that will change how you see every single moment of your life. What if I told you that everything, every person you meet, every number you see, every song that plays at precisely the right moment, is not coincidence, but conversation, a divine dialogue between your consciousness and the very fabric of reality itself? You see, my friend, you have been living in a world that speaks to you constantly, but you have forgotten the language. Tonight, we remember. But first, let me ask you something. Have you ever thought of someone you haven't spoken to in years, only to have them call you within hours? Have you ever opened a book to a random page and found the exact answer to a question that had been burning in your mind? Have you ever noticed the same sequence of numbers, 111, 222, 333, appearing everywhere you look, as if reality itself were leaving breadcrumbs for you to follow? If you have experienced any of these, then you have been touched by what I call the secret language of reality. And tonight, you will learn to speak it fluently. I want you to imagine for a moment that you are not merely a physical being stumbling through a random universe. Imagine instead that you are pure consciousness, wearing the garment of flesh, moving through a reality that is as responsive to your inner states as clay is to the potter's hands. This is not imagination. This is truth. When I speak of synchronicities, I am not speaking of mere coincidences. I am speaking of the language of God, the whispers of your own wonderful human imagination made manifest in the world of Caesar. Every meaningful coincidence, every perfect timing, every moment when the outer world mirrors your inner conversations, these are not accidents. They are appointments. You see, from the moment you wake until the moment you sleep, you are in constant conversation with infinite intelligence. But this conversation does not happen through words. It happens through experience. Through the seemingly random events that are not random at all, but perfectly orchestrated responses to your inner states. But here's what they don't want you to know about these divine appointments. You have been conditioned, my friend, to believe in a dead universe, a universe where things simply happen to you, rather than a universe that is constantly responding from you. The materialist worldview, this poverty of imagination, would have you believe that consciousness is merely a byproduct of matter, that your thoughts are powerless, that synchronicities are mere statistical flukes. But I tell you tonight, consciousness is the only reality, and what we call the physical world is its shadow. From the moment you drew your first breath, a systematic campaign was waged against your divine nature. The very institutions that claimed to educate you were, in fact, training you to ignore the miraculous. When as a child, you noticed the uncanny connections, the perfect timings, the way reality seemed to dance with your inner world, what were you told? It's just coincidence. Don't be so imaginative. That's not how the world works. Stop daydreaming and focus on reality. But the child in you knew better, didn't you? The child in you recognized that the world was alive, responsive, speaking in a language older than words. You could sense when someone was thinking about you. You knew when something was about to happen. You instinctively felt the connections between all things. Then came the schools, with their rigid structures and materialist dogma. They didn't teach you how to listen to your intuition or recognize the signs that reality was constantly sending you. Instead, they taught you to memorize facts, follow rules, and obey external authority. They trained you to trust only what could be measured, weighed, and categorized. Creativity was systematically pushed aside in favor of logical reasoning. Imagination was dismissed as childish fantasy. Abstract thinking was discouraged, unless it served the machine of production and consumption. If you couldn't see it, touch it, or prove it in a laboratory, it wasn't real. But here's the truth they didn't want you to discover. The greatest minds in history, Carl Jung, Nikola Tesla, Albert Einstein, all recognized that reality is far more mysterious and responsive than the materialist worldview suggests. They understood that synchronicities and meaningful patterns were not anomalies to be dismissed, but clues to the deeper nature of existence itself. Now wait until you hear what these great minds discovered about the hidden intelligence governing reality. Carl Jung, that brilliant explorer of the psyche, coined the term synchronicity after witnessing countless examples of events aligning in ways that defied logical explanation. He recognized these meaningful coincidences as expressions of what he called the collective unconscious, that vast reservoir of shared human experience that connects all minds. But Carl Jung was rediscovering what the ancients had always known. The mystics of old understood that individual consciousness is not separate from universal consciousness. They knew that what we call the outer world is actually the projection of inner states, and that by changing our inner nature, we could transform our entire experience of reality. Tesla, that master of energy and frequency, spoke of the universe as a vast field of vibration. He understood that everything, including thoughts and emotions, carries a specific frequency, and that by attuning ourselves to certain frequencies, we could influence the very fabric of reality. Einstein, despite his association with materialist science, recognized that the observer plays a fundamental role in determining reality. His famous statement that God does not play dice with the universe was not a denial of quantum mechanics, but an affirmation that there is an underlying intelligence and order to existence. These great minds understood what the mystery schools had taught for millennia, that consciousness is not a passive observer of reality, but the active creator of it. And there's one crucial element that determines whether you experience these miracles daily or remain blind to them. Modern quantum physics has stumbled upon something that mystics have known for thousands of years. Reality is not fixed and independent, but fluid and responsive to consciousness. The famous double-slit experiment revealed that the mere act of observation changes the behavior of particles at the most fundamental level of reality. What does this mean for you? It means that reality is not what happens to you. It is what happens through you. Your consciousness is not separate from the universe. It is the universe experiencing itself subjectively. When you truly understand this, synchronicities become not mysterious coincidences, but natural expressions of consciousness, recognizing itself in the mirror of experience. But here's where most people miss the profound implications. If consciousness creates reality, then your thoughts, beliefs, and especially your feelings are not just personal experiences. They are creative forces, shaping your world moment by moment. This is why some people seem to live charmed lives, where opportunities appear effortlessly and perfect timing is commonplace. It's not luck, it's alignment. They have learned, either consciously or unconsciously, to vibrate at frequencies that attract synchronicities. Everything in the universe, from the smallest particle to the largest galaxy, vibrates at specific frequencies. Your thoughts and emotions are no exception. Each thought carries a vibration, each emotion a frequency, and these frequencies act like radio signals, attracting experiences that match their vibrational signature. When you consistently think thoughts of fear, lack, and limitation, you attune yourself to the frequency of struggle and discord. Your subconscious mind, which is connected to the infinite intelligence that governs all things, begins to attract circumstances that match these frequencies. But when you elevate your consciousness, when you think thoughts of love, abundance, and possibility, you align yourself with higher frequencies. You become a magnet for synchronicities, opportunities, and what others call lucky breaks. This is not wishful thinking, my friend. This is the fundamental law by which reality operates. The universe is not a random collection of unrelated events. It is an interconnected web of consciousness, responding to your inner states with mathematical precision. Now I'll reveal the exact mechanism by which your thoughts become your reality. Your subconscious mind is the bridge between the inner world of consciousness and the outer world of experience. While your conscious mind is focused on daily tasks and immediate concerns, your subconscious is constantly processing deeper patterns, making connections that your rational mind cannot see. This deeper intelligence within you never sleeps. It is always working, always arranging circumstances, always drawing to you people and situations that match your dominant mental and emotional patterns. When you set an intention, whether consciously or unconsciously, your subconscious begins the process of materialization. It starts by heightening your awareness to opportunities that were always there but previously invisible to you. This is why when you decide to buy a certain car, you suddenly see that model everywhere. But the subconscious goes far beyond simple pattern recognition. It operates through what Jung called the collective unconscious, that vast network of shared consciousness that connects all minds. Through this connection, your subconscious can influence the subconscious minds of others, creating what appear to be miraculous coincidences. The person who calls you just as you're thinking of them is not experiencing a random event. Their subconscious has picked up the signal from your subconscious. The stranger who appears with exactly the information you need is being guided by the same intelligence that is guiding you. This is why people who strongly believe in synchronicities experience them more frequently. Their belief creates a state of expectancy that programs their subconscious to actively participate in the orchestration of meaningful coincidences. There is a network in your brainstem called the reticular activating system, or RAS, that filters the millions of pieces of information bombarding your senses every moment. This system determines what reaches your conscious awareness and what remains in the background. It is like a search engine for your brain. Whatever you focus on, whatever you believe is important, becomes a priority for this system. If you're looking for red cars, you'll see red cars everywhere. If you're focused on problems, you'll notice problems. If you're attuned to synchronicities, they will appear with increasing frequency. But here's the profound truth. This system doesn't just filter existing information. It actually influences what information becomes available to filter. When you program your RAS to look for signs, opportunities, and meaningful connections, you are literally reprogramming reality to present you with more of these experiences. This is why the people who live in the flow of synchronicity seem to inhabit a different world than those who see only randomness and struggle. They have programmed their consciousness to recognize and attract the hidden order that underlies all apparent chaos. There's one ancient practice that can immediately amplify your ability to receive these divine messages. Now I come to the heart of all creation. The secret that I have been sharing for decades, the power of assumption. Assumption is not hope. It is not wishing. It is not positive thinking. Assumption is the act of accepting as true that which your senses deny and your reason rejects. It is feeling the reality of your desire fulfilled before there is any evidence in the outer world. When you assume something to be true, when you live in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are not trying to make something happen. You are acknowledging that it has already happened in the only realm that matters, consciousness. Every assumption, if persisted in, will harden into fact. This is not metaphor. This is the fundamental law of creation. Your assumptions are the seeds from which your experiences grow. To understand how synchronicities work, you must understand the three states of consciousness from which you can operate. Number one, the victim state. In this state, You believe that life happens to you. You see yourself as subject to forces beyond your control. Synchronicities, if they appear at all, are dismissed as mere coincidence. You live in reaction to circumstances rather than in response to your inner vision. Number 2, the magical state. In this state, you recognize that synchronicities exist, but you still see them as coming from outside yourself. You wait for signs, you look for omens, you try to interpret what the universe is telling you. While this is a step up from the victim state, you are still not operating from your full power. Number 3, the creator state. In this state, you recognize that you are the operant power. You understand that synchronicities are not messages from some external universe. They are confirmations from your own divine nature. You don't wait for signs. You create them. You don't look for omens. You become them. Only when you operate from the creator state do synchronicities become a constant companion, rather than occasional visitors. And here's the specific technique that allows you to consciously enter the creator state. The ancients knew something that modern man has forgotten: how to have a conscious conversation with reality. They called it prayer, but their prayer was not begging, it was claiming; not hoping, it was knowing; not asking, it was thanking. Here is their method, refined through my own experience, and proven through countless applications. Step 1. Enter the silence. Find that quiet space within yourself, where the noise of the outer world cannot penetrate. This is not merely physical silence. It is the silence of assumption, where you cease to argue with life, and simply accept what you desire as already accomplished. Step 2. Construct the scene. Create in your imagination a scene that implies the fulfillment of your desire. Make it simple, natural, and easily repeatable. If you desire abundance, perhaps you see yourself comfortably paying bills without concern. If you desire love, perhaps you feel a loving hand in yours. Step 3. Enter the scene. Don't observe the scene. Enter it. Feel yourself in the situation. Use all your senses. Make it as real as any experience you've ever had. The subconscious cannot distinguish between an imagined experience and a physical one. If the imagined experience is felt as real. Step 4. Feel the reality. This is the crucial step. You must feel the reality of what you are imagining. Not the feeling of wanting it, but the feeling of having it. Dwell in that feeling until it becomes natural, until it feels more real than your current circumstances. Step 5. Release with gratitude. Having felt the reality of your fulfilled desire, release it with complete confidence. Don't hold on to it with mental effort. Let it go, knowing that your subconscious will now move heaven and earth to make it manifest. When you practice this method consistently, synchronicities don't just increase, they become the very fabric of your existence. One of the most common ways that consciousness communicates with itself is through numbers. You begin to notice 1111 appearing on clocks. You see 222 on license plates. 333 shows up on receipts and billboards. These are not random occurrences. In the mystical traditions, numbers are considered the language of creation itself. Each number carries a specific vibration, a particular message from your deeper self. When you see 111, it often signifies new beginnings, the opening of energy portals in your life. 222 speaks of balance and partnership, divine timing, bringing things into alignment. 333 represents the trinity of mind, body, and spirit, working in harmony. But here's the deeper truth. The specific meaning of these numbers is less important than your recognition of them. Each time you notice a meaningful number sequence, you are acknowledging the intelligence that governs your life. You are saying yes to the conversation between your conscious and subconscious minds. The more you acknowledge these numerical signs, the more frequently they appear. Not because you're looking for them, but because your recognition of them strengthens the connection between the seen and unseen aspects of your being. But there's an even more powerful form of synchronicity that most people never learn to recognize. Beyond numbers, consciousness speaks through symbols, songs, animals, and seemingly random encounters. That song that plays just as you're thinking of someone special. The book that falls open to exactly the page you need to read. the stranger who says precisely the words you need to hear. These symbolic synchronicities are the universe's way of confirming that you are on the right path, that your inner and outer worlds are aligning. They are love letters from your own divine nature, written in the language of experience. I remember a student who was struggling with a difficult decision about her career. She had been assuming success in a new field, but was wavering in her conviction. One morning, she found a white feather on her doorstep, something she had never seen before in 20 years of living in her apartment. That evening, a friend called unexpectedly and mentioned seeing a white bird, which reminded her of an old saying about white feathers being signs of encouragement from guardian angels. Later that same day, she opened a magazine to a random page and saw an article titled, "Taking Flight: When to Trust Your Wings." These were not three separate coincidences. They were one coordinated message from her subconscious mind, confirming that her assumption of success was being supported by infinite intelligence. The key to working with symbolic synchronicities is to trust your first instinct about their meaning. Your intuition will always recognize the personal significance of these signs before your rational mind can analyze them. Perhaps the most powerful synchronicities involve other people. You meet someone who has exactly the knowledge you need. You encounter a stranger who shares your specific interest or challenge. You run into an old friend just when you need their particular skill or perspective. These human synchronicities reveal something profound about the nature of reality. We are all connected at levels deeper than our physical senses can perceive. When you need something, the universe doesn't always deliver it as an object or opportunity. Sometimes it delivers it as a person. But here's what most people miss. These people are not randomly appearing in your life. They are being drawn to you by the same intelligence that is guiding you toward them. Your assumption, your inner conviction, your emotional state is sending out signals that attract exactly the people you need. I have witnessed this countless times in my own life and in the lives of my students. The person who needs healing attracts the healer. The one who needs teaching attracts the teacher. The one who needs love attracts the lover. This is not luck or chance. This is consciousness orchestrating reality through the medium of human relationships. Now I'll share the one mistake that causes most people to miss these miraculous encounters. The fatal error that most people make is this. They wait for the sign before they believe, instead of believing and then receiving the sign as confirmation. Let me tell you plainly, faith is not believing despite the lack of evidence. Faith is knowing that your assumption, once felt as real, must produce evidence. When you truly live from the end, when you inhabit the state of consciousness of your wish fulfilled, the signs don't come to convince you. They come to celebrate with you. Most people approach synchronicities backwards. They think, if I see a sign, then I'll believe my desire is coming true. But the correct approach is, because I believe my desire is already fulfilled, I recognize these signs as confirmations of that truth. This reversal of understanding is the difference between those who experience occasional synchronicities and those who live in constant communion with the creative forces of the universe. Once you begin to live consciously, once you start assuming your desires fulfilled and recognizing synchronicities as confirmations, something remarkable happens. Everything accelerates. Synchronicities don't just increase in frequency, they increase in precision and power. The signs become unmistakable. The timing becomes perfect. The connections become profound. This acceleration occurs because you are aligning yourself with the natural flow of creation. Instead of swimming against the current of your own divine nature, you are moving with it. I have seen students go from experiencing one meaningful synchronicity per month to experiencing multiple synchronicities per day, not because they were trying harder, but because they were believing deeper. The universe rewards movement. When you act on your assumptions, when you trust your inner guidance, when you follow the synchronicities as they appear, reality responds by providing more guidance, more signs, more confirmations. To live in the flow of synchronicity is to live in what I call the lovely state of knowing. You know that you are loved, guided, and protected by your own wonderful human imagination, which is God Himself individualized as you. In this state, You don't worry about how your desires will be fulfilled. You know they are already fulfilled in consciousness, and you trust that the outer world will conform to this inner reality. You don't search for signs. You recognize them. You don't force synchronicities. You allow them. You don't doubt your power. You assume it. People who live in this flow often describe their lives as magical, charmed, blessed. They seem to be in the right place at the right time with remarkable consistency. Opportunities appear effortlessly. Problems resolve themselves. Connections happen naturally. But this is not special treatment from some external universe. This is the natural result of consciousness operating from its full power. Here is perhaps the deepest truth about synchronicities. They are not coming from outside you. They are reflections of your own consciousness, recognizing itself in the mirror of experience. When you see 11:11 on a clock, it is not the universe trying to get your attention. It is you, as God, reminding yourself of your divine nature. When you hear the perfect song, at the perfect moment, it is not some external intelligence speaking to you. It is your own wonderful human imagination, orchestrating your experience from within. When you meet exactly the right person at exactly the right time, it is not chance. It is consciousness drawing itself to itself through the medium of human encounter. Understanding this principle transforms your entire relationship with synchronicity. You stop looking for messages from outside and start recognizing the constant conversation you are having with yourself through the language of experience. There's one advanced technique that can instantly multiply your synchronicity experiences, and I have shared with very few students, but which I feel moved to share with you tonight. The practice of thanking reality for synchronicities before they appear. Instead of waiting for a sign and then expressing gratitude, you express gratitude for the signs that are already on their way to you. You thank your divine imagination for the perfect timing, the meaningful coincidences, the miraculous encounters that you know are being arranged even now. This practice does something extraordinary to your consciousness. It moves you from hoping for synchronicities to expecting them. And expectation is a powerful creative force. When you expect synchronicities, you look for them. When you look for them, you find them. When you find them, you believe in them more deeply. When you believe more deeply, you attract more powerful ones. This creates an upward spiral of increasing communion with the creative forces of reality. I promise you this. Begin to live consciously. Begin to assume your desires fulfilled. Begin to treat every synchronicity as a love letter from your own divine nature, and you will discover that miracles are not violations of natural law. They are the natural response of reality to awakened consciousness. The universe is not random. It is responsive. It is not indifferent. It is intimate. It knows your name, your desires, your dreams, because it is you, appearing as your world. But knowledge without application is powerless. You must practice these principles. You must assume the state of consciousness you desire to express. You must persist in your assumptions until they harden into fact. Start tonight. Before you sleep, assume something wonderful about tomorrow. Feel it as already accomplished. Live in that feeling until it becomes natural. Then watch. Watch as reality begins to speak to you more clearly. Watch as synchronicities increase in frequency and power. Watch as your life transforms from random chance to conscious creation. Every synchronicity is God's way of remaining anonymous, while personally delivering your good to you. Every meaningful coincidence is consciousness confirming its own creative power through you. You are not separate from the creative power of the universe. You are the creative power, individualized and made personal. The next time you see 11:11 on the clock, know that it is not the universe trying to get your attention. It is you as God, reminding yourself of your divine nature. The next time the perfect song plays at the perfect moment, don't dismiss it as coincidence. Recognize it as your own wonderful human imagination, speaking to you through the language of experience itself. The next time you meet exactly the right person at exactly the right time, understand that this is not luck. This is consciousness orchestrating reality through the power of assumption. You have been having a conversation with God all along. You just didn't recognize the voice because it was your own. Tonight, I have reminded you of your true nature. I have shown you the language that reality speaks. I have revealed the mechanism by which consciousness creates experience. Now the question is, what will you assume? What will you claim as already accomplished? What reality will you create through the power of your own divine imagination? The universe is waiting for your answer, not in words, but in assumption, not in hope, but in feeling, not tomorrow, but now. Wake up, my friend. The universe has been calling your name, and now you know that the voice you've been hearing is your own. If this message has awakened something within you, let me know in the comments by simply writing, I am, because in those two words lies the secret of all synchronicity, all creation, all power. I am is the name of God, and it is your name too. My dear friends, in this lecture, you'll discover the one secret that has the power to dissolve every problem you've ever faced. What if I revealed to you that you are not who you think you are, and that this misunderstanding is the root of all your suffering? Tonight I'm going to share with you the most profound truth I've ever discovered. A truth so powerful that once you grasp it, truly grasp it, worry becomes impossible. Fear dissolves like mist before the sun, and every challenge transforms into a doorway to your desires. But before I reveal this secret, let me ask you something that will shake you to your very core. Right now, as you listen to my voice, who do you believe yourself to be? Are you John, struggling with debt that keeps you awake at night? Are you Mary, anxious about whether your partner truly loves you? Are you someone carrying the crushing weight of past failures, drowning in future uncertainties, suffocated by present limitations? If you answered yes to any of these, then you are living in the grandest illusion ever conceived. You are not your name. You are not your circumstances. You are not your bank balance, your job title, your relationship status. You are not even your thoughts and emotions that seem to control your every waking moment. You are the infinite creative power of the universe, temporarily forgetting your true identity. And in this forgetting lies both your suffering and your salvation. When you worry, and I know you do worry, perhaps right now, as you listen to these words, you are operating from what I call the finite sense of self. You're identifying with your physical body that ages and aches, your personal history filled with disappointments and regrets, your social circumstances that seem to define and confine you. You've forgotten the magnificent being that you truly are. But tonight, this changes. Tonight, you remember who you really are. Tonight, you discover the secret that has been hidden in plain sight your entire life. Listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you, for these words will either liberate you completely or challenge everything you believe about reality. You are not a human being having a spiritual experience. You are God individualized, temporarily wearing the mask of humanity. You are the infinite creative consciousness, pretending to be limited so that you can experience the joy of remembering your unlimited nature. Here's something that will stop you in your tracks and force you to question everything. How can God worry? Think about it deeply. How can the infinite creative force that spoke galaxies into existence, that dreams up every sunset and orchestrates every heartbeat, be concerned about paying rent? How can the consciousness that imagined every star, every ocean, every flower into being, be anxious about what others think of you? It's impossible, isn't it? Completely, utterly impossible. And yet, that's exactly what you are. That same creative power, that same infinite consciousness. The only difference is that you've been hypnotized into believing you're separate from it. You've been mesmerized by the grand illusion that you are small, limited, powerless. But what if I told you that this hypnosis is about to be broken forever? The world you see around you, every problem that torments you, every challenge that seems insurmountable, every limitation that appears to bind you, is not the cause of your experience. It's the effect. It's the outward projection of your inner states of consciousness, like shadows cast by the light of your own mind. This means something so extraordinary that most people cannot accept it when they first hear it. Every circumstance in your life is a reflection of your inner world. That financial struggle that keeps you awake at 3 in the morning, it's reflecting a state of lack consciousness that you've been unconsciously occupying. That difficult relationship that brings you pain, it's mirroring your deepest concepts of love, worth, and deserving. That health challenge that frightens you, it's expressing your beliefs about your body, your vitality, your right to be whole and strong. But here's where it gets exciting. And this is the part that will change everything for you. The part that will make you realize you've been living with godlike power all along, without knowing it. If your outer world is a reflection of your inner world, then by changing your inner world, you can transform everything. And I mean everything. Your relationships, your finances, your health, your entire experience of life itself. When you truly understand this, not just intellectually with your reasoning mind, but experientially with every fiber of your being, you'll never look at a problem the same way again. Instead of asking, how can I solve this? You'll ask, what state of consciousness am I occupying that's creating this experience? Instead of trying to change the outer world, you'll focus on changing your inner world, knowing that the outer must conform. This brings me to the most liberating statement you'll ever hear. Words that will set you free from every burden you've ever carried. God will solve it. Now, before you think I'm advocating some form of spiritual passivity, some kind of wishful thinking that expects miracles to fall from the sky, let me clarify what I mean. When I say God will solve it, I'm not referring to some external deity sitting on a cloud, some cosmic figure who may or may not decide to help you. I'm referring to the God within you, the infinite intelligence that is your very essence, the creative power that is your true nature. Stay with me because this next part will literally rewire how you think about problems forever. And I promise you, by the time I finish explaining this, you'll never feel powerless again. When you say God will solve it, you're not abdicating responsibility or washing your hands of your challenges. You're making the most powerful declaration possible. You're aligning yourself with the creative power of the universe. You're stepping out of the limited perspective of the problem and into the expanded consciousness of the solution. Think about this profound truth. A seed doesn't worry about becoming a mighty oak tree. It doesn't lie awake at night wondering if it has what it takes to grow into something magnificent. It contains within itself the complete pattern of its full expression. The entire oak tree, roots, trunk, branches, leaves, exists as pure potential within that tiny seed. Similarly, your consciousness contains within it the solution to every problem you could ever face. Every challenge that appears in your life already carries within it the seed of its own resolution. But you must learn to plant yourself in the fertile soil of faith rather than the barren ground of worry. Here's the practical application that will transform your life immediately. And I want you to try this even as you listen to these words. Instead of focusing on your problem, instead of rehearsing it in your mind, discussing it with others, analyzing it from every angle, focus on the feeling of it already being solved. How would you feel right now if your financial struggles were completely over? How would you move through the world if your relationship was perfectly harmonious? What would your mental state be if your health was vibrant and strong? This feeling, this state of consciousness, where your problem is already solved, is the key to allowing God to solve your problem. You see, when you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, when you live from the end result rather than from the present problem, you are aligning yourself with the creative power of the universe. But wait, this gets even more remarkable, and what I'm about to tell you will completely shatter your concept of time and possibility. In the realm of pure consciousness, where all creation takes place, there is no time. Past, present, and future are illusions of the physical world. In consciousness, everything exists in the eternal now. This means your desire is fulfilled the moment you assume the feeling of its fulfillment with complete conviction. The time it takes to appear in your physical reality depends only on your faith and your persistence in this assumed state. So when I tell you that God will solve your problem, I'm not speaking of some future event. Your problem is already solved, right now, in this very moment. The only question is, are you willing to accept this truth? Think about what this means. Every solution you've ever sought, every answer you've ever needed, every miracle you've ever prayed for. They all exist right now in the realm of infinite possibility. Your job is not to create them. Your job is to select them by assuming the state of consciousness in which they are already yours. Here's something that will surprise you and challenge everything you've been taught about achievement and success. The harder you try to solve your problems, the more you're actually affirming their existence. This is what I call the law of reversed effort. When you struggle and strain to make something happen, when you push and force and manipulate circumstances, you're operating from the consciousness of lack, the very consciousness that created the problem in the first place. You're saying to the universe, I don't have this and I need to make it happen. But the universe only knows how to say yes to your state of consciousness. Instead of trying harder, try less. Instead of doing more, be more. Rest in the knowing that the infinite intelligence within you, the same intelligence that grows your hair without your conscious effort, that beats your heart while you sleep, that orchestrates the intricate dance of billions of cells in your body, is fully capable of solving whatever you're facing. This isn't about being passive or inactive. It's about being aligned. When you're truly aligned with the consciousness of the solution, inspired action flows naturally. You won't feel like you're struggling upstream against the current of life. Instead, you'll find yourself carried by a river of synchronicity toward your desired outcome. You'll find yourself in the right place at the right time, meeting the right people, having the right ideas, receiving the right opportunities. This isn't coincidence. This is consciousness in action. This is God, which you are, orchestrating your reality with infinite intelligence and perfect timing. Let me share with you one of the most powerful techniques I know for allowing God to solve your problems. A practice that has transformed countless lives and will transform yours, if you use it faithfully. Revision. Each night before you sleep, as you're lying in bed preparing to enter the state of consciousness, where all creation begins, review the events of your day. But here's the crucial part. Don't review them as they appeared to your physical senses. Revise them to align with the state of your problems being solved. Had a challenging conversation with your boss? Revise it to have gone perfectly, with your boss expressing confidence in your abilities. Received discouraging news about your finances? Revise it to be encouraging news about new opportunities. Felt anxious about your relationship? Revise yourself as feeling completely loved and secure. This technique works because your memories are not fixed recordings stored somewhere in your brain like files on a computer. They're fluid, living things that are constantly being reconstructed each time you remember them. By consciously revising your memories, you're literally reshaping your past. And as you change your past in imagination, you change your future in reality. But the power of revision goes even deeper than this. When you revise your day to align with your problems being solved, you're not just changing your memories, you're changing your identity. You're becoming the person who naturally attracts solutions rather than problems. The person who moves through life with confidence and grace rather than fear and struggle. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Neville, isn't this just fantasy? Isn't this self-deception? And to this I say, what you call reality is already a form of imagination. The difference is that most people are unconsciously imagining what they don't want, while I'm teaching you to consciously imagine what you do want. Every night, as you practice revision, you're planting seeds in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. These seeds must grow into your outer experience, because that's the law of consciousness. What you vividly imagine and feel to be true becomes true in your experience. When you assume the state of your problem being solved, truly assume it with feeling and conviction, a series of events is automatically set in motion to bring about the manifestation of your desire. I call this the bridge of incidents. You don't need to know how God will solve your problem. You don't need to figure out the steps, manipulate the circumstances, or force the outcome. Your job is simply to maintain your assumption and trust the bridge. Each event, each encounter, each seeming coincidence is part of this bridge leading you to the complete manifestation of your solved problem. Here's something that will amaze you and fill you with wonder at the intelligence of the universe. Once you truly embody the consciousness of your problem being solved, the entire universe begins to conspire in your favor. People you've never met will play their perfect parts in your unfolding solution. Circumstances will align in ways that seem miraculous but are actually the natural result of your changed consciousness. Opportunities will present themselves at precisely the right moment. Resources will appear from unexpected sources. Doors will open that you didn't even know existed. And all of this will happen not because you forced it, but because you aligned yourself with it through your consciousness. This is what I mean when I say that God will solve it. The infinite intelligence that created and maintains the universe is not separate from you. It is you. And this intelligence knows exactly how to bring about the solution to your problem in the most perfect, harmonious way possible. But here's something crucial that I must emphasize. This is not about sitting back and waiting for miracles to happen while you do nothing. When you're truly aligned with the consciousness of the solution, you'll be inspired to take what I call right action. This action won't feel like struggle or effort. It won't be driven by fear or desperation. Instead, it will feel natural, even inevitable. You'll find yourself making phone calls that lead to breakthrough conversations. You'll be inspired to visit places where you meet exactly the right person. You'll have ideas that seem to come from nowhere but lead to perfect solutions. The difference between right action and wrong action is the consciousness from which it springs. Wrong action comes from the consciousness of the problem. It's driven by fear, worry, and the need to force an outcome. Right action comes from the consciousness of the solution. It's inspired, effortless, and aligned with the natural flow of your good. Pay attention to your inner conversations, the thoughts you think and the words you speak to yourself throughout the day. These conversations are shaping your reality more powerfully than any action you could take in the outer world. Most people have no idea how much power their inner dialogue holds. They spend their days thinking and talking about their problems, rehearsing their fears, anticipating negative outcomes, and then they wonder why their lives are filled with the very things they don't want. If you're constantly thinking and talking about your problems, you're reinforcing their existence in your experience. You're giving them life through your attention, feeding them with your emotional energy, strengthening their hold on your reality. Instead, have inner conversations that align with your problems being solved. Speak to yourself as if the solution is already in place. Have imaginary conversations with others where you discuss the wonderful resolution of your situation. Thank people for their help in bringing about your good fortune, even if this conversation exists only in your imagination. These inner conversations are not just fantasies. They're powerful creative forces that are literally reshaping the substance of your reality. Remember, your subconscious mind cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a physical one. When you have these conversations with feeling and conviction, your subconscious accepts them as real and begins to work to make them real in your outer experience. Let me tell you about a state of consciousness that is crucial to allowing God to solve your problems. What I call the Sabbath state. After you've done your imaginative work, after you've assumed the feeling of your problem being solved, after you've revised your day and had your inner conversations, enter into complete rest. The Sabbath state is a state of total release from all effort, a state of knowing that your work is done. In this state, you no longer feel the need to make the solution happen because you know it already is happening. You rest in the certainty of the outcome, allowing God to work through the natural unfolding of events. This rest is not the rest of exhaustion or defeat. It's the rest of completion, the peace that comes from knowing that everything is handled. It's like planting a seed and then leaving it alone to grow, trusting that the intelligence within the seed knows exactly what to do. Many people struggle with this state because they've been conditioned to believe that they must be constantly doing something to create change. But the truth is that the most important work happens in consciousness, and once that work is complete, the outer manifestation is inevitable. The Sabbath state is not about being lazy or inactive. It's about operating from the consciousness of completion rather than the consciousness of need. When you're truly in this state, any action you take flows from inspiration rather than desperation, from fullness rather than emptiness. The next one is perhaps the most important concept I can share with you, and I want you to really let this sink into your consciousness. Live from the end. Don't live hoping your problem will be solved someday in the future. Live as if it's already solved right now, in this very moment. When you truly do this, when you embody the consciousness of the solution rather than the problem, time collapses. The future you desire becomes your present reality. You're not waiting for change to happen. You're experiencing it now. Think about what it would mean to live from the end of your financial struggles. You wouldn't check your bank balance with anxiety. You'd check it with the quiet confidence of someone who always has enough. You wouldn't worry about bills. You'd pay them knowing that the money flows to you as easily as breath flows through your lungs. Think about what it would mean to live from the end of your relationship problems. You wouldn't wonder if you're loved. You'd know it with unshakable certainty. You wouldn't try to control or manipulate your partner. You'd rest in the security of perfect love. This is not pretense or self-deception. This is alignment with your true nature and your ultimate good. When you live from the end, you're not denying your current circumstances. You're choosing to identify with your desired reality rather than your present appearance. Cultivate gratitude, not just for what you can see and touch, but for the unseen solution that is even now unfolding in your life. Give thanks for the wisdom that guides you, the love that surrounds you, and the power that resides within you. This gratitude is not just a nice feeling. It's a powerful creative force that aligns you with the frequency of your desires fulfilled. When you're truly grateful for your problems being solved, even before you see evidence, you're opening a doorway for miracles to enter your experience. Gratitude puts you in a state of receptivity. It says to the universe, I am ready to receive my good. It acknowledges that your good is already on its way, already in motion, already seeking expression through you. Practice this kind of gratitude throughout your day. Thank God for the solution that is unfolding. Thank the people who will play their parts in your good fortune. Thank the circumstances that are aligning for your benefit. Do this even when, especially when, you can't see any evidence in the outer world. Never forget this fundamental truth. You are not separate from God. You are an individualized expression of the infinite creative power. The same intelligence that set the stars in their courses flows through your consciousness. The same love that holds galaxies together beats in your heart. The same creative force that imagined the universe into existence lives and moves and has its being as you. When you remember this truth, really remember it, not just as a nice idea, but as a living reality, every problem becomes an opportunity to witness the divine power in action. Every challenge becomes a chance to exercise your godlike nature. Every obstacle becomes a stepping stone to greater expression of your infinite potential. Here's the ultimate secret, the one truth that changes everything. You don't need to become someone new to solve your problems. You need to remember who you've always been. You need to stop pretending to be limited and start expressing your unlimited nature. You are not your circumstances. You are not your challenges. You are not your past failures or future fears. You are the awareness in which all these experiences appear and disappear like clouds in the vastness of the sky. Trusting that God will solve your problem is not a one-time event. It's a continuous choice, a moment-by-moment decision to align with your true nature rather than your temporary appearance. You must persist in this state of faith even when the outer world shows no sign of change, even when others doubt you, even when your own mind tries to convince you it's not working. This persistence is what separates those who successfully transform their lives from those who give up too soon. Think of it like moving to a new home. You don't wake up each morning wondering where you are, looking around confused and uncertain. You naturally assume your new surroundings because you know where you live. This is how you must be with your faith, that God will solve your problem. It should become your new normal, your new home state. Even when the old familiar thoughts of worry try to move back in, you gently but firmly remind them that they no longer live here. But what if you falter? What if you find yourself slipping back into worry and doubt? Do not despair. Do not judge yourself harshly. Simply acknowledge what has happened and return to your state of faith and surrender. Remember, you are breaking lifelong habits of thought and feeling. It takes practice, patience, and persistence. As you practice these principles, as you truly embody the consciousness that God will solve it, you'll notice something remarkable happening. your entire perception of life shifts. What once seemed like insurmountable obstacles now appear as stepping stones to greater expression. What once felt like punishment now feels like preparation. You begin to see yourself not as a victim of circumstances, but as the creator of experiences. Not as someone hoping for change, but as someone allowing transformation. Not as someone begging God for help, but as someone remembering that you are the very God you've been praying to. And here's the most beautiful part of this entire journey. The revelation that brings tears of joy to those who truly understand it. When you fully awaken to your true nature, when you completely embody the consciousness that God will solve it, you realize something profound and liberating. There never was a problem to begin with. There was only God, which you are, pretending to have problems so that God could experience the infinite joy of remembering its unlimited power to solve them. Every challenge you faced has been a game of cosmic hide and seek, with the infinite playing at being finite, the unlimited pretending to be limited, the eternal acting as if it were temporary. And now the game is ending. Now you're remembering who you really are. So I ask you now, as we near the end of our time together, are you ready to stop living as a limited human being and start expressing as the infinite creative power you truly are? Are you willing to release your attachment to problems and embrace your identity as the solution to everything you've ever sought? The choice is yours. It has always been yours. The power is within you. It has always been within you. The time is now. It has always been now. Remember this as you go forward. You are not your circumstances. You are not your challenges. You are not even your thoughts and emotions. You are the awareness in which all these experiences arise and pass away. You are the infinite creative power of the universe, temporarily wearing the mask of humanity, playing the game of limitation, so you can experience the ecstasy of remembering your unlimited nature. Tonight, as you go to sleep, carry this truth with you like a precious treasure. God will solve it. Not because you hope so, not because you wish it to be true, but because you are God individualized. And it is impossible, utterly impossible, for you to have a problem that you cannot solve. Rest in this knowing. Live from this truth. Breathe this reality into every cell of your being. And watch with wonder and gratitude as your entire world transforms to match the magnificent being you've always been, but temporarily forgot. The secret that changes everything is this. You are everything. You are the problem, you are the solution, and you are the creative power that bridges them both. You are the dreamer and the dream, the seeker and the sought, the question and the answer. Welcome home to your true self. Welcome home to your divine nature. Welcome home to a life where God solves everything, because God is who you are, who you've always been, and who you'll always be. What if I told you that the most powerful force in the universe has been living inside you your entire life, and you've been treating it like a stranger? Today, I'm going to reveal something that will fundamentally change how you see yourself, how you move through the world, and why you've been living like a beggar when you were born to be a king. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover has been hidden from you by a world that profits from your confusion. There's a crisis happening right now, and it's not what the news is telling you. It's not economic. It's not political. It's spiritual. Millions of people are walking around like empty shells, searching for something they can't name, chasing things that don't satisfy, and living lives that feel like borrowed costumes that never quite fit. They wake up every morning with a gnawing sense that something is missing, that they're capable of more, that there's a purpose they can't quite grasp. They scroll through social media, looking for inspiration, read self-help books searching for answers, attend seminars, hoping someone will finally give them the key to unlock their potential. But here's what's shocking about this crisis. The very thing they're searching for everywhere else is already inside them. It's been there since their first breath. It's the reason they feel restless when they compromise. It's the source of that voice that says, you're meant for more when they're settling for less. It's why certain conversations light them up, while others drain their energy. It's why they can sense when someone is lying before they have proof. It's why they sometimes know exactly what to say in moments of crisis, even when they've never faced that situation before. But society has trained us to ignore it. We've been conditioned to look up to the sky, to bow to institutions, to wait for permission, to seek validation from sources outside ourselves. We've been taught that power is something you earn, wisdom is something you study, and purpose is something you find through trial and error. We've been programmed to believe that the answers are always somewhere else, in the next book, the next course, the next guru, the next relationship, the next job, the next city. All lies. The truth is this: you were born with the mind of the Creator embedded in your DNA, not as metaphor, not as poetry, as reality. And I'm about to prove it to you in a way that will make you question everything you thought you knew about limitation. Think about this for a moment. When you get a gut feeling about someone, where does that come from? When you know something is wrong before anyone tells you, what is that? When you have an idea that seems to come from nowhere but changes everything, who sent it? When you're in a conversation and the perfect words come out of your mouth, surprising even you with their wisdom, where did that wisdom originate? When you make a decision that everyone calls crazy but it works out perfectly, what guided you? You've been experiencing divine intelligence your entire life. You just called it intuition. You labeled it coincidence. You dismissed it as imagination. You credited it to luck or good timing, or being in the right place at the right moment. But what if those moments of knowing, those flashes of clarity, those times when you acted with perfect timing, without planning, what if those weren't accidents? What if they were glimpses of who you really are, when you stop getting in your own way? Let me tell you about two types of people you'll meet in this world. The first type walks into a room and immediately starts calculating. They read the room, adjust their personality, measure their words, and perform whatever version of themselves they think will be accepted. They speak differently to their boss than to their friends. They act one way at church and another way at home. They live in reaction. They move based on the mood of others. They speak to please rather than to express truth. They're always scanning for approval, always adjusting their behavior based on who's watching, always performing some version of themselves that they think will get them what they want. But then there's the second type, and when you meet them, you'll never forget it. The second type walks into that same room, and something shifts. Not because they're loud or dramatic, but because they carry something that can't be faked. They don't read the room responds to them. They don't perform, they simply are. And in their presence, people remember something they had forgotten about themselves. Children gravitate toward them. Animals sense something different. Even their enemies respect them, though they can't explain why. What's the difference? The first person has forgotten who lives inside them. The second has remembered. The second person has made a decision that changed everything. They've decided to act as if the creator of the universe dwells within them. Not when they feel holy, not when they're perfect, not when the world agrees with them. Right now, in their doubt, in their mess, in their confusion, in their ordinary Tuesday morning when they're running late and spilled coffee on their shirt. And here's what happens when you make that same decision, when you begin to act as if divine intelligence lives within you. Your entire operating system upgrades. You stop asking permission to exist. You stop apologizing for taking up space. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop seeking validation from sources that can never truly know you. But more than that, and this is where it gets interesting, you start accessing capabilities you didn't know you had. I'm talking about abilities that will seem almost magical to people who are still living from their limitations. You'll start saying things that are exactly what someone needed to hear, without planning it. You'll make decisions with perfect timing, without having all the information. You'll know things about people before they tell you. You'll feel danger before it arrives, and opportunity before it knocks. You'll find yourself in the right place at the right time so often that people will start calling you lucky. This isn't supernatural. This is you functioning the way you were designed to function before fear taught you to doubt every instinct. Before society trained you to second-guess every impulse. Before you learned to trust everyone's opinion except the voice inside your own chest. This is what happens when you remember that you're not just a biological machine trying to survive in a random universe. You're a spiritual being having a human experience, and that spiritual essence is connected to the source of all intelligence, all wisdom, all power. I once watched a man transform his entire business by making one decision, not a strategic decision, not a calculated move based on market research or competitor analysis. He simply decided to stop asking, "What will people think?" and started asking, "What wants to be created through me?" He stopped trying to figure out what would sell and started paying attention to what was trying to emerge through his unique gifts and perspective. Within 6 months, his revenue tripled. His team changed. His entire industry started following his lead. People asked him what course he took, what consultant he hired, what strategy he implemented. They wanted the formula, the system, the step-by-step process. The answer: he remembered who was living inside him and started acting accordingly. He aligned with something bigger than his personal will and let it flow through his work. But before you can access this power, you have to understand why most people never will. Here's the brutal truth that most personal development won't tell you. You will never feel ready to carry what you were born to carry. Let me say that again, because this is where most people get stuck forever. You will never feel ready to carry what you were born to carry. Why? Because divine assignments don't arrive at your level of comfort. They arrive at your level of obedience. They don't wait for you to feel confident, qualified, or prepared. They come when the timing is right, from a perspective you can't see, requiring you to stretch beyond who you've been into who you're becoming. Readiness is a feeling. Obedience is a decision. And the difference between these two will determine whether you die with your music still inside you, or whether you become a symphony that changes the world around you. The world is full of people who are waiting to feel confident, waiting to feel worthy, waiting to feel qualified, waiting for more proof, waiting for better timing, waiting for permission, waiting for someone to discover them, waiting for the perfect plan, waiting for all the resources to be in place, waiting for the fear to go away, waiting for the doubt to disappear, waiting for their circumstances to change. And while they wait, the assignment that was meant for them gets passed to someone else. Not someone more qualified, someone more available, not someone more talented, someone more willing, not someone more prepared, someone more obedient to the call they're receiving. You see, divine intelligence doesn't wait for your emotional alignment. It doesn't delay the plan until your insecurities are satisfied. It doesn't postpone the timing until you feel ready. It moves through the person who says yes while their hands are still shaking, who speaks up while their voice is still trembling, who steps forward while their knees are still knocking. 3 years ago, I felt a strong urge to start speaking publicly about these concepts. I had no experience in public speaking, no credentials in spirituality or psychology, no platform, no following, no guarantee anyone would listen. Every logical part of my mind said, wait until you're more prepared, get some training, study under a mentor, build credibility first, create a plan, figure out the business model. But there was something inside me that said, now, not a voice I could hear with my ears, a knowing I could feel in my bones, a pressure in my chest, an inner alignment that had nothing to do with my feelings about it. It was like a river that had been building up behind a dam, and the dam was about to burst, whether I cooperated or not. I could have waited. I could have gotten more training, more experience, more confidence. I could have spent years preparing, studying, practicing in private. But I had learned something crucial. The divine doesn't give you instruction based on your mood. It gives it based on timing that you can't see from your limited perspective. It operates according to patterns and purposes that are bigger than your personal comfort zone. So I made a choice that terrified me, and it changed everything. I decided to act before I felt ready. And in that decision, everything I thought I needed began to appear. The words came while I was speaking them. The confidence built while I was moving. The path became clear while I was walking it. The resources showed up as I needed them, not before. This is how divine intelligence works. Faith is not proven by stillness. Faith is proven by motion. You don't get to see the whole staircase. You just take the first step. and the next step appears. You don't get the complete blueprint. You get the next instruction, and when you follow it, the one after that becomes visible. So let me ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly. What are you waiting for? What calling have you been ignoring because you don't feel qualified? What message are you withholding because you fear being misunderstood? What action are you delaying because you haven't figured out step 5, when step 1 is still undone? What dream are you postponing because you're waiting for better circumstances, more resources, or someone else's permission? Because what I'm about to tell you will eliminate every excuse you've been using to stay small. You don't lack clarity. You lack commitment to what is already clear. Read that again. You don't lack clarity. You lack commitment to what is already clear. That restlessness you feel when you're not living authentically, that's not confusion. That's the divine intelligence within you, pressing against the walls of your comfort zone, demanding expression. That idea that keeps returning to your mind, no matter how many times you dismiss it. That's not wishful thinking. That's instruction. That sense that you're meant for something bigger than your current circumstances. That's not ego or delusion. That's recognition. That pull you feel towards certain activities, certain people, certain causes. That's not random. That's guidance. That discomfort you feel when you compromise your values or settle for less than what you know is possible. That's not weakness. That's your inner compass recalibrating, reminding you that you're off course. But here's what happens to most people. They ask for the calling to come again instead of acting on the one that already came. They pray for more signs when they've already received clear direction. They ask for confirmation when they've already been shown what to do. They wait for the feeling to return when the instruction was never based on feeling in the first place. And this is where everything changes or everything stays the same. When you finally say yes, without full understanding, without full preparation, without full confidence, that's when the real power begins to flow to what is already clear. But let me clarify something important. This isn't the kind of power the world teaches you to seek. This isn't power over others. This isn't power to dominate or control or manipulate. This isn't power to get what you want by force or manipulation. This is the power of alignment, the power of authenticity, the power of someone who no longer needs to pretend because they've remembered who they really are. And people feel this kind of power immediately. Have you ever been in the presence of someone who wasn't trying to impress anyone? Someone who spoke with quiet authority. Someone whose silence was more compelling than most people's speeches. Someone who could walk into a chaotic situation and bring calm just by being there. Someone who could speak truth in a way that landed without creating defensiveness. That's what happens when a person stops drawing from the outside world for validation and starts drawing from the infinite source within. They don't need to be loud to be heard. They don't need to perform to be respected. They don't need to chase anything, because everything they need is drawn to their alignment like iron filings to a magnet. This is what the ancients called magnetic presence. It's not charisma that can be learned, and often feels manipulative. It's not confidence that can be faked, and often masks insecurity. It's the natural result of a human being who has stopped betraying themselves and started honoring what lives within them. But this transformation requires something most people aren't willing to do. You have to make room. If your mind is full of fear, if your calendar is full of distractions, if your environment is full of voices that mock your calling, don't tell me you're aligned with divine intelligence. You cannot host the sacred in a crowded house. You cannot carry infinite intelligence in a schedule ruled by distraction. You cannot hear what's holy if all you listen to is noise. You cannot receive divine guidance if your attention is constantly fragmented among 1,000 different inputs. Let me be specific about what this looks like in practical terms. You wake up and listen instead of immediately reaching for your phone to see what everyone else is doing. You take time for sacred stillness, not for more motivation, but for connection with the source of all motivation. You create space in your day for contemplation, for reflection, for simply being present with yourself without any agenda. You say no to conversations that pollute your peace. You cut ties with environments that cheapen your energy. You distance yourself from people who drain your vitality or mock your vision. You guard your ears like gates, watching what you consume not because you're fragile, but because you're carrying something holy that requires protection. You fast not just from food, but from everything that clouds your vision. Toxic media, negative conversations, energy-draining activities, relationships that pull you down rather than lift you up. You become intentional about what you allow into your mental and emotional space, understanding that everything you consume either feeds your connection to divine intelligence or interferes with it. And when you create this space, something extraordinary happens. Suddenly you think more clearly. You know what to say without rehearsing it. You feel strength without forcing it. You speak with weight even in soft words. You move with peace even when there's pressure. You make decisions from a place of inner knowing rather than external analysis. But this only happens when space has been made. And that space isn't just physical. It's emotional, spiritual, energetic. You have to clear out the clutter in all dimensions of your being. Ask yourself, what am I holding on to that crowds my spirit? What relationships have expired, but I still carry them like dead weight? What guilt, shame, regret, and past versions of myself am I dragging around like chains? What patterns am I stuck in not because they serve me, but because I'm afraid of the stillness that will follow if I let them go? Because here's the hard truth. Some of you need to hear. Some of you keep your lives loud, because silence would force you to confront what you've been avoiding. The pain you haven't processed, the dreams you've abandoned, the truth about what you really want versus what you think you should want. The gap between who you're being and who you're called to be. But in that silence is where divine intelligence lives. In that stillness is where alignment begins. In that open space is where your next instruction is waiting. You don't need to add more to your life. You need to subtract what's blocking your power. There comes a moment in every life when the questions must stop. The begging, the wishing, the searching, the restless prayer that sounds like, when will someone help me? When will the way become clear? When will I be given the power? When will my circumstances change? When will someone see my potential and give me a chance? And the answer, though few are willing to hear it, is this. You were not meant to keep asking. You were meant to become the answer. You were not created to chase certainty. You were designed to embody it. You were not placed on this earth to wonder who will rise. You were placed here to rise yourself, so others remember they can too. But here's the tragedy. Most will never rise, not because they lack opportunity, but because they never believed they were chosen to become the solution they waited for. They waited for the right leader to appear, the right mentor to guide them, the right door to open, the right person to believe in them, the right circumstances to align. But what if you are the leader you've been waiting for? What if you are the door you've been trying to find? What if the answer you keep searching for in the world has been asking for permission to live through you all along? What if your calling isn't to find your purpose, but to become so aligned with divine intelligence that purpose flows through you naturally? So here's what separates those who become the answer from those who die still waiting. Decision, pure, simple, irrevocable decision. Decision to walk into the unknown with the confidence of one who knows he is not empty. Decision to stand where others tremble. Decision to speak when the moment calls, even if your voice has never been used that way before. Decision to carry your assignment even when your hands still shake. The shaking doesn't disqualify you. The fear doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. The doubt doesn't cancel your destiny. These are not signs that you're unworthy. They're signs that you're about to grow beyond who you've been. When you make this decision, really make it. Not just think about it, or wish for it, or plan to make it someday. People will ask, what changed? And you won't be able to explain it, because it wasn't a moment, it wasn't a conversation, it wasn't a technique, it was a return to who you were before the fear, before the forgetting, before the smallness, before the delay. A return to the one truth they could never take from you, that divine intelligence lives within you, and that changes everything. It changes how you walk, how you talk, how you make decisions, how you handle pressure, how you treat people, how you see opportunities, how you respond to challenges. When you truly understand and embody this truth, you stop living as if you're alone in the universe, struggling against forces beyond your control. You start living as if you're partnered with the creative intelligence that designed galaxies and grows flowers and beats your heart without you having to think about it. You stop asking, "What should I do?" and start asking, "What wants to be expressed through me?" You stop trying to figure everything out with your limited human mind and start trusting the infinite intelligence that knows things you could never calculate or predict. You stop forcing and start flowing. You stop pushing and start attracting. You stop performing and start being. And in that being, in that authenticity, in that alignment, you become a force of nature that can't be stopped, can't be imitated, and can't be ignored. So walk. Walk until the questions stop. Walk until the room shifts when you enter it. Walk until doors open that were locked to everyone else. Walk until your life becomes the loudest proof that something divine is moving through you. Walk until you no longer have to convince anyone of your worth, your calling, or your purpose. Walk until people can sense the presence of something greater just by being around you. Walk until your silence speaks louder than their noise. Walk until your peace becomes contagious and your certainty becomes magnetic. Because when a person carries the presence of infinite intelligence within them, they become unmistakable. They don't have to announce it, prove it, or defend it. It announces itself through every word they speak, every decision they make, every room they enter, every life they touch. The divine is not waiting for you to feel ready. It's waiting for you to remember. And once you do, everything changes. Not just for you, but for everyone whose life intersects with yours. You become a catalyst for awakening, a reminder of what's possible, a living example of what happens when a human being remembers who they really are and starts acting accordingly. This is your invitation. This is your moment. This is your time to stop living as if you're powerless and start walking as if you carry the force that moves mountains, parts seas, and transforms lives, with nothing more than aligned intention and surrendered action. The question is not whether you're capable. The question is whether you're willing. Are you willing to let go of the small story you've been telling yourself about who you are and what you can do? Are you willing to step into the magnitude of what wants to be expressed through your unique presence in this world? Are you willing to stop waiting and start walking? Because the world needs what you carry, and it needs it now.